next.
All right, we're gonna go.
Go. Tell me when it's on. Welcome to the Online Tatting Class. Today, we're going to get to meet the person behind these classes, Georgia Seitz. We're going to interview her. She's going to answer your questions. Each student is allowed one question due to time restraints. However, Georgia is the backbone of these classes. She started them 24 years ago?
22 years ago.
22 years ago. And now look where they're gone to. No telling where the future will be with this class. But without her, tatting could fall to the wayside. So start asking your questions. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like the substance for today, because September 13th, the classes are back. So get ready to learn. Georgia?
While we're waiting on the first question to come in, Tammy said that I was the backbone of the class. Well, that's true. I was. But I retired 2019, and Tammy Montgomery was taking over the classes with Susan and many others. And she's the one that does those beautiful videos with her fingernails and stuff. I know you've been watching them on YouTube. I tell you, they're absolutely gorgeous. If you ever have a question about a stitch, just go to the YouTube site, put it in there, and Tammy's going to tell you exactly how to do it.
I learned from the best.
You flatter me. But Lord knows I've had a good time doing this. I've tatted for 42 years. Then I did teach that online tatting class for 20 years. Was editor of the Bell Online Tatting Forum for 10 years. I wrote some books, made some friends, and I've had the best time of my life doing tatting. Now, who's got a question for me? Anybody ready yet?
First question. Everybody's
Hi.
name.
Well, hi to everybody.
I know the mission.
I tell you, when I teach in person, it's a lot easier to feed off of the audience because you get so much laughter and everything, you know.
Does anybody hear a question?
Anybody in the audience here have a question for Georgia? See, everybody here knows.
Yeah.
Where did you learn to tat?
Oh, now that is a good story. Along my formative years, like after I got out of high school and college and everything, I loved to go to garage sales. I like to rescue embroidered doilies and nightstands, dressers, and tablecloths and pillowcases. And I just loved the lace things. And I began to find one particular type of lace that just really intrigued me. I didn't even know what it was called at first, but I kept looking for it. Finally found out it was called tatting. Unfortunately, there was not a single soul in my family that tatted. My great-grandparents and my great-aunt, they knitted beautiful lace knitting. But my grandmother was a truck driver. She drove truck in Illinois for 29 years. My mother was a police officer most of that time. So I had to go and learn on my own. Remember the little green book we see at the store, the little green one? I got it. I was a complete failure. I never got the flip. I couldn't do anything. So I kept looking for somebody to teach me how to do it. One day, my best friend from the Army, Audrey, was visiting, and we went to our favorite needlework store, of course, and she spotted a sign saying tatting lessons in February. My birthday's in February. So she got me signed up for the lessons for that year for my birthday. I learned to tat and it stopped. It was the introduction to a lifetime's pleasure, fun, and friendship with so many people. The actual class in which I learned, there was only about 8 or so people. A 16-year-old and me and some other ladies. And we were taught by a woman called, she was named Vera Klopfenberg, and she was a master tanner who did museum restoration work. The story was she could tat a web so fine it would be like a spider. Well, maybe so, but that might be finished. I know her work was wonderful. I saw it for myself, but I tell you, she is or was the very worst tatting teacher that ever existed. There has never been anyone as bad as she was. She got up before the class, did not speak, did not show us a shuttle, did not show us thread, did not show us how to wind a shuttle, did not show us how to hold the shuttle. All she did was stand there and tap. Okay, so there we watch her fingers going back and forth and back and forth. Everybody looked around. Nope, I didn't get it. Did you get it? No, I didn't get it. That went on for 2 hours. Of course, we all left very disappointed. Came back the next week. In that first hour, she was doing this again, and that little 16-year-old said, "Oh, aha," our ears perked up. She figured it out. She had another book, was looking at it, she looked at her, and it clicked. Oh. Well, the 16-year-old kid taught me, and I taught the next one all the way around the table, and we finally learned how to tat, but not with the help of Vera Hopfenberg, I'll tell you. But that was a wonderful moment. It was a lot of fun.
So how long have you and Richard been?
46 years, we're going for 50. So I also had the experience of meeting a master tatter when we were living in Sacramento. I didn't know she was a master tatter. I didn't know who she was at all. I just went to the laundromat. And I had my shovels with me. I just never went anywhere without my shovels once I learned to tat. So I sat down there and I was doing this with all the things were washing. She kind of looked at me a little bit. By the time the dryer was going, she says, "You know how to tat a shamrock?" And I said, "Well, no." She said, "Hey, I'll get my shuttle." And there we went. She started showing me this. And it was easy. It was a 9, 11, and 13 was the count. You do 3 rings and 9s, 3 and 11s, 3 and 13, do a chain around it, put a stem on it. You had a shamrock. Well, in those days, we didn't have a lot of books. That little green one and the work basket's all I remember. Oh, Aunt Ellen's, the white book with the blue. Yeah, there was that one too. So I asked her, "Where did you see that? What book was that in? Won't you tell me about this?" And she said, "Oh, honey, I learned that from Priscilla." And I just sighed and I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know who Priscilla was." It was a number of years later that I learned she was talking about the modern Priscilla of fame and fortune, all those tatting patterns for years and years and years. And it came about that I put out my first book, just some snowflakes. And she saw them, and she asked for some. She was going to teach a class. She wanted to visit, so we got a little correspondence. Her name was Angeline Christian.
Oh my word.
That's right. And I didn't know with whom I was dealing.
To you all, that's on the same level
Oh.
as talking to Georgia.
Jeez. And Angeline showed me the bedspread that she had tatted in pink squares for her family. I begged him after she passed to send that to the Smithsonian, but I don't know. Anyway, we kept up correspondence over many years, and when my first international patterns were published by Piecework magazine, November '93, we used her hands tatting as a symbol of the art. It was just a wonderful photograph, just wonderful. Of course, now everybody knows about her work. They started as a 1976 bicentennial project, she put out that book and a hard copy, and she had about 10, 15 smaller books, and they hand bound her books. They hand printed them on a press, and they bound them, and instead of sewing them up with thread, they had them with a ribbon. It's just beautiful. She and her husband did all kinds of good work. Now, she's of course gone now, but if you ever have a chance to see some of her books, be sure and get this, because they're real cheap.
Question, Lauren.
Oh, question.
New to tag, what is the correct way to join to the shuttle? It always ends up with a gap.
She's dealing with
For example,
gaposes.
the chain of 105 joined with ether of ring A. So it's a join. I have learned a lot from you. Thank you very much.
She's having gaposes.
Gap focus at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, gapsosis is a term that we invented.
yeah.
But what happens is at the bottom of the ring, most often, you're going to reverse work and go into a chain. And you're just turning the work up, and you start. But that first half stitch sometimes doesn't slide over there just fine. So what you do then is you make your reverse work. Okay, there's your pinch right there. Your chain's going to start from there. Well, it starts like this. Take that ring that you just made, hold it back. Hold it like a little Oreo sandwich, just smash it in there. Take your first half stitch and set it. And pull it up extra tight. And slightly rotate your hand away from it. That pulls the last little bit of thread up right next to your hands. And hold that well while you set the second half. And for good measure, do another stitch. After that, you can unfold your sandwich and put the ring back in proper position, and then go on with your chain. That should count.
All right. Next question. Nobody's got questions? You're talking to the world famous Georgia Seitz.
Tammy kills me every time she says that, because this is the famous lady who does all the videos.
You are,
And her husband.
you're not doing this videos, I'm her hand.
What's that try?
But you chop his hands.
Is there any news on the Last Supper tag?
No, Tom was sick for quite a while, and unfortunately, he has not answered any mail in the last 3-4 years that I know. But it does not mean that is forgotten. That Last Supper project by Louise Consistra, I think you pronounced the name. That was his great aunt who did that, all in tatting. Was last seen at the Madison Square Garden on display. And 2 older ladies in his family think that after that it was rolled up and taken home by a family member. But as of the last time I spoke with him, he hadn't been able to find it. But that's a gem, and I do hope we will find it. Her work is online. You can see the pictures of it. And we had several samples of her work given to us. Was it 2014 Palmetto's Tat Days?
I think so.
By the way, put Palmetto Tat Days on your travel calendar.
Yes,
This is the best place to come for traveling, for tatting.
yes. Everybody has to come out at least once.
At least once. But from those pieces, we saw that she had taken squares of 4 rings and used these like the pixels in a picture to build the photo, the entire painting of the work. And she did that also in smaller pieces, like a rose doily. So using our charts and our online doodads that you can draw with, we reproduce those doilies and how to put them together. And I think anybody can do it. You just have to set it for just a little bit. It's very easy. And you can apply the technique. If you will print out a photo or whatever on graph paper, then you can see where the rings would be for each set of 4, and you can color them to match what the photo should be.
We have a question for you, Jordan.
Yes.
What skill took you the longest to learn, or what skill element are you most proud to have learned?
Well, now let me think on that. Tatting with 3 shuttles, tatting with more than 3 shuttles, always intrigued me. And of course, it was called the Riego Pearl Chain way back in the day. You have a central core line, but you have a thread on this side throwing off Picot, and a thread on the other side throwing off Picot. And it used to mean that we would have to flip our work over and back and over and back. And yet, when it occurred to us that we didn't have to do that, but by rearranging our hands and using that second shuttle to wrap, as in doing a split chain or a split ring, it got rid of all that extra hassle. And I really thought that was quite an epiphany for doing it. Being able to work off both sides of the line of progression is amazing, and not just for a chain, but we can do it in rings, and you can get a ring going and throw out rings inside of rings. It's endless.
Candace says hello from Bernice, and thank you for helping all of you given us.
Oh, hey, I'm glad they've done it.
Karen asked, why a lock join don't all joints keep stitches in place?
Well, no, they don't. Of course. A lock join truly locks the thread in place, because the first half stitch of the lock join is like normal, but the second half stitch literally is tying a knot. It's forcing the thread out of position so that it curls up, locks, and will not move after that point. Now, other joints, like a normal joint, would go through a picot and you lock it up like that. So is that lock? Yes, that's lock, but it's not the type of thing that we're talking about. But most joints, the core thread moves through the joint, so the threads are still moving. Lock joint, that core thread is it, that's done. So never tighten down the lock joint until you have checked twice to make sure you have all your threads in the right position. And be sure you've tightened it up before you lock it down, because it is an absolute bear to get out most of the time. And there is a serious problem with the lock joints. Being right-handed or being left-handed, if you don't plan ahead or think about it, your method of pulling the thread up to lock it down will have a left-hand slant or it will have a right-hand slant, unless you pull straight up at a 90-degree angle. Something to think about.
Any other questions?
What about lock stitches?
What was that?
What about lock stitches? What do you think about lock stitches?
They're a bear to undo.
Band-aids mark lock stitches and lock joints.
Well, every stitch has a purpose in life. And it creates a different look to the work with regular double stitch, lock joint, lock stitch. It's just all a matter of what we're doing with that stitch in particular. So I don't dislike them. They're not my favorite. But it does.
What is your favorite technique?
My favorite technique
Yes.
is split rings. Split rings.
Yeah.
I love split rings.
Yeah, I can relate with split
Oh.
rings. That makes life
With a split ring, you can go anywhere.
right.
When you have a ring, you go from point A to point A. That's it, as far as you go. When you have a chain, you go from point B to point C. That's it. You're done. You got to go back to A or something else. But with split rings, you can start over here at A, B, C, and D. You can split your threads apart, go up another direction, or go down another direction. You can bring them back together. It's just so versatile and so creative. I really
It
enjoy
opens
those.
up so much.
Design possibilities, yes, yes.
Question.
Yes.
Do you post your shuttle before closing your rings?
Yes and no. If I'm just fooling around doing something, probably not. But if it is an important piece of work, fancy piece, or if it's going to be judged, or given as a gift, posting your shuttle through that, by the way, posting means you take and drop the shuttle through the ring before you close it up. All that does is manipulate the manner in which the threads are lying so that they're in place for the next half stitch. It's somewhat similar to when you do a switch shuttle movement. Why would you switch shuttles while you're tatting along? There's several reasons. Could be to throw off at a different element. Could be you're running out of thread. Could be you want to do beads on one thing and not on the other. But as you make that tie, it brings the thread that was on the bottom up to the top. So it's ready to work when the next stitch is made.
Anybody got a question? Anybody?
That's what you're out.
Yeah.
Yes.
What technique that as soon as you saw it, other than split ring obviously, made you go, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's so obvious.
Well, the drop Picot was a startling revelation to me because when I was first needing that sky hook to join to, my reference were the old German books. And many of those would just pull down thread and make it like a picot and just kind of like tie it off. And you just have it there handy for when you come back around and needed to join to something. But once I learned that this drop picot was just our core thread brought down, and you can put beads on it, you can put shuttles through it, you can manipulate it, you can join to it underneath it. That was a very good creative element.
Who do you think was the best class you ever taught?
Oh, goodness. Let me think on that for just a minute. Did you have a question?
Self-closing rock rings.
Oh, yeah.
Still a mystery to me. And you get.
Oh, self-closing. Back in the early days, ladies would learn to tat. Some of them learned only to tat a chain. Some of them learned only to do rings. Never the twain met for a long time. But it occurred to someone along the way that if I'm tatting chains and I want to have a ring, and I don't know how to use that shuttle to make a ring, why don't I just fold my chain back on itself? And that's what happened. So you're tatting your chain, and where it starts, you just pull out a loop of thread or stick it around your thumb or put a space holder, a paper clip on it. You just go ahead and tap your chain as long as you want to do. And if you're doing that, you can throw off little rings, little picots, all kinds of stuff. But when you're done and you want the circle to be closed, you just come back, and that space that you held out, that's where your shuttle goes through. It's just capturing that, and it tightens it up, and that chain then magically turns into a ring. Yes.
What is your favorite type of project jewelry doing?
Favorite project?
Favorite
That's a
project,
touch.
that is a touchy, but jewelry is very difficult for me, because I don't wear earrings, And I got those warts on my neck, so I had to give up on necklaces and everything. So I don't do a lot of jewelry. But I love those corsages that we made out of flowers and those leaves like Ruth Scharf had them designing for us. Those are great. And I'd like to do those giveaway type things, but I love small projects that are aimed for the beginning and the intermediate tatter. Pin cushions in particular, because what do you need? 6 or 8 inches of lace to go around the end. Even the simplest of edgings on a little pin cushion, you got something really great to show mom, right? Yeah, that's what I always felt. So things that make great gifts are the best. You're not only sharing your love of tatting, but you're sharing love with another person.
Isn't that what tatting's about?
So,
Have you ever tatted with fine size?
I have, I've tatted with size 120 once and 160 once. When we imported those threads from Japan 15 years ago. Mark Myers used that size thread to great advantage when he was making decorations for a wedding gift. How many years ago was that? 8 years? Something like
About
that?
8, 9 years.
That's right.
Did Mark Myers do it?
Our Mark Myers.
I
yes.
like
He was here the very first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 18.
But,
Somebody-
do I enjoy using those tiny threads? For the moment. I even enjoyed size 80 when I was at my heyday. But now I usually stick with 20, 30, or 40.
I don't know if this has been asked, this is from Maria, but always find it tricky when I run out of thread. Is it easier to join a new thread with a ring or a chain? I don't know if it makes sense.
Where do you make your add-on for new threads? It doesn't matter. You add on wherever you run out. It's not that big a deal. Don't let it stymie you. It's not a problem. Now, if you're at the end of a ring when it's been closed, that is an excellent place to do it, because you're going to go into a chain next, and covering multiple threads when doing a chain is much easier than doing it in a ring. That doesn't mean you don't have to do it in a ring, because you can at any time, but it's easier to hide the tails inside of a chain.
What is your favorite story from when you lived in Alaska?
Oh,
Favorite story from Alaska.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
we were newbies in Alaska. We lived in an apartment the first few months. The snow was deep. I mean, seriously deep. Out of the window, Richard spotted moose clomping through the snow, unhurriedly, just having a good time, stopping to browse a little willow birch leaf here and there. And Richard said, "Oh, where's the kid?" And out he ran and out the front door there. And he was on the steps and he went down on the little sidewalk. He moved forward and got just right spot for taking a picture. And then there he was taking a picture and taking a picture of the moose. And the moose got bigger and bigger in his lens. It finally dawned on him that moose was coming at his nose. And Richie jumped for a snowbank. Now, it's not true that he went in head first and his blades are flailing in the air, but it was close. It was close. Oh, I tell you, that was a terrifying moment, but it was kind of funny.
What is your most memorable convention you've been to?
My most memorable convention?
That you've been to? The
On
one.
those tatting gigs.
Yes.
2005 wasn't that at the college, or we had to have beds and share showers, and yeah. That was a lovely venue, it was, but college dorms, they're just not for old people like me anymore. That's
I don't
right.
think college dorms are for anybody over 40.
But that one was really quite memorable because it was a hot place, and you had to go from building to building to get to things. And there were all these snakes there, rattlesnakes. They even had a snake wrangler who would come when you called, and then gather the snake to get back to your door with everything. I'll never forget that. But at that same convention, I believe, I was given a shirt with black and white stripes like a referee. And Mark Myers made this giant shield that looks like a tatting shuttle.
Yeah,
And somebody else had this giant wooden thing that was like a tatting needle. And I had to referee a joust or something between the two of them fighting. That's a sight you'll never forget. That's for certain.
that
And-
fits to your brain.
That's right. And I remember the very first class that I did on miniature tatting for dollhouses. In the instructions, it said, bring your own little piece of furniture, and we'll create a doily or whatever to fit your furniture, the size and everything. There were lots of information. Well, when the handouts were created, all they got was the first page. It had some pictures on it and nothing else. And because of that, there were 2 or 3 ladies in the class that gave me a very, very bad review because I was unprepared to teach a lesson I didn't even have handouts for. Okay, yeah, all right. They were right, but I didn't know they wouldn't get the whole pattern. So you do what you can do anyway. I had a good time, and the other ladies in class, there was 2 groups.
So what
That's
advice
about
did
it.
you give to tatters? Yeah.
Come in as fast as you can. Sit down with anybody who knows how to tap and learn how to do it. It's going to open up a whole new world of fun and friendship, and you'll not believe how your life is going to change for the better. It makes everything great. You're not only learning an art, an ancient art, you're sharing it with hundreds of people who have come before you. And I say people, not just women. There are many, many good gentlemen tappers, that's for sure. You're going to spread that from one person to the next. And as you teach one person, they'll teach another one. Like ripples in the pond, it just keeps on spreading. What is it y'all say down here? Like
Spread like kudzu.
kudzu. That's right, that's right. Please don't hesitate. Ask anybody. Share it with anybody.
What is your favorite tat ever?
The next one I bought.
Do you prefer tie a square knot or pipe ends?
Hide ends. I don't do this one. Always hide ends. And I like the one best where you go in and out sewing it in.
Samantha says she doesn't want to.
Oh, okay. Is that
Sue, be
Sue?
careful.
Yeah, Sue was there to do that. That's right. Ask Sue what the year was when she took the shirt off my back. True story.
Sue, you have to answer now if you opened up that book.
There you go. Now, it was the funniest thing. I was teaching along, and some people told me how Sue admired my shirt because it was all shades of purple. And she was teaching tatting just across the hall. So after lunch, I put on a different shirt underneath and this one on top. And as I had a break in my class, I went next door to her class. I told her that I'd heard how much she admired my shirt, so I'm just going to give the shirt off my back. And I took it off and gave it to her right then and there.
That was
Oh,
about both of you.
Well, first time attending, so great to be honored to finally put a face with famous names. Thank you for letting her join, and sorry that you have to go. Oh, she has to go.
Okay.
did she say her name?
Laura Kimura, K-I-M-U-R-A.
She's the
Laura, I'm
next
glad
lady.
you're here.
So, any more questions for Georgia? Any questions here for Georgia?
Well, while you're thinking of something,
One, yeah,
okay, go ahead.
What's your favorite type of shuttle?
Your favorite shuttle?
Uh, you know, my husband was a shuttle maker for what, 23 years?
Yeah.
I think so, something close to that anyway. And he made wooden shuttles. And he learned how to do inlaying on some of those things. In 1 year, he made a beautiful wooden shuttle. And he cut out these little musical notes and inlaid them on the top. Then he inlaid a heart on the top. And he gave that to him because he said, tatting was music to my heart. Isn't he the sweetest thing? Oh.
Miss Jane on. Hi, Jane. Say hi to Jane.
Hey Jane, how you doing?
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
While teaching the students over the years, what class really set with you that you knew you were helping people? Which class was it?
I had a class in California in Costa Mesa with a lady who was, I don't know how to say it, she was convinced that the world was going to end. She was so depressed and negative. I never saw anything like it. She had a dog with her, not a little dog, but he was so huge that we had to take a chair in and let him have a space on the floor to sit. And I had to go walking all around like that to step over on that thing. And I was puzzled on what to do for this lady. She was convinced that everything was bad. I can't do this, Tammy. I can't do this. I can't do this. What do? Well, I got a bit aggressive. I did. Kind of got up in her face and said, you can do this. You will do this. And she did it. That was it. She learned how to tat. And she seemed to get it pretty fast. And by the time that week was over, she was a more relaxed person than I have ever known. She took to the tatting like it was therapy. And it was a good thing for her. And I highly recommend it for therapy, particularly to people who have rehabilitation.
I advertise, it's therapy, trust me.
Yeah, if you've got any physical problems, you know, it's great therapy for learning how to do it.
Maria Vega asked, would a upholstered thread be a good choice to make a nice student?
Yeah, but it's awful hard work with it.
It would be something I would never choose. Not when you can take any cord and just stiffen it with that little bit of Aleene's fabric stiffener.
Yeah.
And it'll stay stiff for decades if you press it between the tissue paper after Christmas and like that.
Sue said it was 2004 and she still has that shirt. He says I was rich.
Oh, he's up and walking and doing a lot better, doing a lot.
Do you remember the convention when the girl bought your shirt? The student bought your shirt.
No,
Tavoa, we was doing the auction
yes.
and she
Oh,
bought your
that
shirt.
pink shirt.
That pink shirt.
Oh, that's right. You know, when I was doing the auction, it was hot times down there. I had to have fans on me and everything. And inevitably, I would take off all the clothes that I could get off. And I took off this beautiful little pink and black jacket thing, and there was a shell. I kept the shell on, and I laid the rest of the blouse over on the table where I was pulling things to auction. And by gosh, she's good.
She bid on it.
Yep, and I give it to her. Hey, anything for the
Exactly.
fundraiser, anything for the fundraiser. Yeah.
Many people add extra half stitches, double stitch to the end of a ring or closing. Do you do this? If so, do you use the first half of the PO to the second?
Do you
Or
double stitch? They just
Yeah,
mistype.
they just mistype.
Stitch.
Yeah, we learned typosis when we was in taxi.
For the second,
no, I do not add a half stitch, but it's because when you post the shuttle through, you don't need to do that.
Does that answer your question?
I'll say, I was in your LOL, green Giller at the 2002 IOLI convention. I remember the teaching encapsulation. Is there any term for that? Another term for that? I have posted over the PTSD over that one. So can we name it something else?
Certainly you can name it something else, but what do you change it to? Well, what does it mean? Have you ever had a vitamin tablet with an old gelatin capsule that's in two pieces, and you put stuff in it, and you put the capsule back together? So you encapsulated the medicine, right? All right, encapsulation with the thread simply means that you've got something in the core, normally one or two things in the core, and you're getting thread over to cover it front and back all along the side of the way. So what else would you call it except encapsulation? But I understand her trouble. The great late Bobby Demmer hated that word too. And yet nobody has told me a better word to use, a more descriptive word to use. Okay, cover, but cover.
Has to represent the technique.
Yeah, it has to tell what it is that's happening in it.
What is your idea of the terms and definitions that we use today in tatting? How so many definitions and terms are actually one technique?
In the abbreviation world, we still need to do a lot in standardizing. And I think Palmetto's has got a pretty good group of abbreviations to use for that. But it seems like every book, every author, every tatter that puts out patterns has a little bit something different. A little something different. And what do? You tell everybody we have to be the same?
No?
We're too regimented. We do that too much. But the best thing is to keep it to the simplest abbreviation possible, the simplest description of something possible.
Sue Fuller wrote, when she posts her shuttle, she ends up the last couple of double stitches pulling and tilting backwards. Is there a way to fix this?
When I go to close the ring, all right, and my shuttle has posted through, there's a start of the ring and there's an end of the ring. I put pressure holding both the first stitch and the last stitch, holding them firmly, not killing them, not, choking them off, but holding them firmly as I pull my shuttle to bring the slack out. And when you pull your shuttle, you're not going up in the air, you're not going straight sideways, you are pulling in a circle. So you pull it down and around towards you. If you pull in any other direction except towards you, then your threads are fighting each other. Only when you come around is it all nice and straight.
Greetings from Argentina. I love admiration for you, Georgia. Glad to see you well, I'll hear from you. Is Celia? S-E-T-E-N.
Well, I'm so glad to see you too. Thanks for coming in with us.
Jay says she believes in standardizing.
Standardizing.
Is there any more questions? Is there any more? Anybody here? All right. Georgia, why don't you take us out and let us know what the future holds for you? Are you going to keep coming to the conventions?
As long as I can get up, even if I have to use my cane, as long as I can get up and walk, I'll be here.
Oh,
Absolutely, absolutely. I missed it last year and I cried the whole time.
did you get depressed too?
Depressed.
I was
Oh,
mad at the world.
I just thought it was the most awful thing that we couldn't go and do what we wanted. Now, I did miss 2019, but that's because I went crazy. I got sick when I got here. Somebody gave me a bug. But yeah, I missed it too, and I missed it last year. And Rich and I decided that no matter what, we were going to come down here this time. That's for sure. There isn't any better place to go to tat and have fun.
That's right.
Mm.
And the people that go to Palmettos, they're a family.
Family reunion, we always have
That's-
that.
And you all don't know what you're missing by not coming. Now, we work hard for the scholarships. We hold auctions. But if you'd like to donate of your own free will to the scholarship program that helps students come to Palmettos, you are more than welcome to. You can send the money to the Palmettos Tatters Guild, and they will see to it that it goes into the fundraiser. And that fundraiser helps many, many people enjoy the camaraderie, get the classes, and get them here to see what other tatters are doing. And see, meet new friends, make new family.
Look at that, Sue and Jane, we've known since what, 2004?
Yeah,
You know, you make a friendship with tatting and it's something for life.
We have one more question. When using magic thread to hide your ends, do you use both sides of the first ring or the first and last chain?
when using the magic.
Yes, yes. To me, it doesn't make any difference. You will end up with 2 threads, so why not take one in each?
Does that make sense?
That is,
Oh. If I might take just a moment,
Yes.
there are so many people like Nanetta and Jane and Muskan and, oh gosh, there are just so many, I'll not remember everybody's name. But the classes were never a one-woman show. We depended on the sharing of patterns and ideas from so many tatters. And don't ever feel too shy to share your work with us. We all start somewhere. And it's just wonderful how we can do it. And just because I'm not a technical wizard doesn't mean I'm not watching out for the class, I'm telling you.
Trust me, she is. She's still got a corner for them,
I
folks.
want to thank Tammy for taking over, and Susan and Dennis and everybody who has made this a possibility. Where would we be without this little corner to go sit and chat online?
So with that, we'll end this session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and that notification bell. We'll notify you when the classes start, but you're allowed to watch the videos as many times as you want. This one will be up on the site as soon as it ends. Thank you. Have a great day. Happy tatting. And see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Yeah,
That wasn't too bad. How
wasn't
many,
that something? Yes.
how many did we end up with?